All right, here we are. Woke up alive again, and guess what? Sarah had I think a bunch of her fellow OCD people emailed me saying there was a dark hole in the Christmas tree. Get Sarah to fix it. Then she goes, "See, I told you." Me? I don't notice that shit. I don't notice that shit. Anyways, I think she fixed the dark hole in her tree. Where'd Ricky go? Oh, there he is. There's little Ricky the raccooner. Now, what are we doing today? Besides sharing a lot of truth. A lot of truth. This microphone thing, there's a little adjuster on the receiver on the laptop, which either goes plus or minus, and I don't know how it was slid over to the minus. Screwed up the volume for a few of you the past few days. Sorry about that. Should have it fixed now. Anyway, what do we got going on? A lot going on. It's funny, this past, I don't know, while, I've had a handful of people email me asking me about Bigfoot movies. Ask me why I don't talk about Bigfoot movies. It's not my gig. It's not my shtick. I think the same theme's been beat over and over like a stick in a dead horse, don't you think? And I was thinking about it. I don't give a shit. I'm not, I like speaking the truth no matter what, no matter how hard it is to hear it. But I got a funny feeling that Bigfoot movies just do one thing unless they change their tune, which is make somebody some money. People money, right? I think if I was to ever be involved or create some type of... I actually had a guy offer up to me. He wanted me to make a documentary. Asked me if I wanted to make a documentary the other day. And I'm like, shit, I don't know. I don't know what he was... But the outdoors, hunting or fishing, I don't know. He didn't really quite say, but he's not too far away from me. He's very skilled. I think if I ever did do one day, I had the energy to create something, it would be something that's never been done before. And that would be exposing all of the bullshit, showing everybody clearly how they've been misled, how they've been lied to, right? How many people have only used this topic to make a shit pile of money. And how many people that you guys have seen on the screen many times have annihilated innocent people's careers over this topic, threatened people for speaking truth over this topic. I've got a lot of that info and receipts. I got a lot of shit. I got a lot of receipts for a lot of dark bullshit that's been done from a lot of people that you guys see on the screens when it comes to this topic. And I'm not scared of one of them. So, yeah, maybe I will do that. I think that would be worthy of a cause. I think that would be very worthy, and that would probably bring back a lot of legitimacy that's been lost due to so many characters trying to be camera whores, misleading you, keeping secrets from you, and not talking about what's important. Why are we being lied to? Right? Who are the shills? Who are the pieces of shit that have eagerly dove into making sure that all of you chase your tail in a circle? Right? Maybe I should do that. What do you guys think? Throw it down in the comment section below. What do you guys think about that? If I were to do something like that, put together a package of facts, truth, and I do firmly believe it would bring back a lot of lost legitimacy that was lost due to so many people out there being lens whore, opportunistic pieces of shit, paid shills, whatever you want to call them. I'm down. I think I might be down. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this again. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I've been threatened before. Makes me laugh now. People that openly threaten you aren't going to do nothing. They don't do nothing. It's the silent ones you got to be worried about in life. Now, who do we got? What do we got? Where was I yesterday? Oh, we did quite the busy day yesterday. We went all the way into the next town over, which could, I guess, called a city. And we did day one of shopping for those hungry little gremlins. Definitely can't get it done in one. Imagine going to Costco right now during Christmas time. It was chaos. I can't believe how Sarah dives in there with those big shopping carts. Pew, 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 pew. Next thing you know, she's gone. There's like 6 other savages in between me and her with their hit to pass carts. There's so many people, they go in there with a game face because I'm comical. I just see all the comedy in the human herd, but you can just see the savages in there. The hit to pass maniacs that are there, they're full on there for pure war in the aisles of Costco, right? Yeah, it's a pretty comical time for me. And I just follow Sarah with a shopping cart until she fills the first one. And then we swap. And then I follow her with the next one. She fills the next one. And good times. But I think today she does another shop at a different store for different products. And then we go back to Costco again because I like to ramp it up this time of year, right? Ramp it up this time of year. And you never know, those groceries, those unexpected, and we're talking food. I think we do average probably around $1,000 worth of food, $1,200 food for per home that Sarah selects. So it's imagine. I mean, I don't know if there's many single moms listening to this channel or not. They're trying to struggle and trying to feed some kids, but I know how far that's going to go. Right, unexpected this time of year, and then if we get it. Like I said to Sarah, I go, like last year, I want to get as many as I can squeezed in now so that I think there's a child tax credit that comes up and she knows when. And to get that done before they get their next small amount of funds, and then all of a sudden they unexpectedly have those extra funds, which could mean a bus ticket to go see family for Christmas, or maybe even that extra $5 or $10 they need to buy their child some gift. Or whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever. Great timing. I'm babbling. Sorry, I'm babbling. That's what we're doing. I'm really trying to jam in as many tummies as I can this week. And but unfortunately, I did the almost fatal mistake of going to the mall first with Sarah. Not my gig. And by the time I was done there, I almost wanted to say, all right, let's just go do the food thing later. I went, all my fellow dudes out there who can't stand going to the mall, I went to the mall first with Christmas shoppers, got drugged around all over the place. Then I went to Costco. Whew. Anyway, here we go. We got an email in to all of you through me titled Missing Time. Dust in here, a little bit of dust yet. Hi, Steve. Thanks to your channel, this all came back to me like a ton of bricks hitting my head. Yes, that's a common theme shared. I'm 60 years old now, and when this happened, I was 18 years old. This took place in Michigan, Manistee National Forest, close to Walhalla, Baldwin area. Me and 4 other friends went camping. 1 2-track to another. We were deep into the forest. We came by a perfect circle, about 30 feet off the 2-track, 20 yards in diameter, all dirt. Nothing was growing in it. To us, looking for a camp spot, it was perfect. Uh-oh. So we found a spot to push the Dodge Ram 4x4 into the woods of a small sapling to it. And as soon as we got in it and parked, I got out. I had to pee, real bad. Now we're in the middle of nowhere. I'm not running 50 feet into the woods to pee. There were some bushes next to the circle, so I headed to them, got there. Next thing I know, I'm facing a little gully and needing to pee so bad I could barely get it out fast enough before wetting myself. And as I'm standing there doing my business, I'm looking around thinking, where the hell am I? I've been in the woods my whole life. And across the little gully was the ugliest tree I ever did see. Which tree kept popping in my head? It was black, about 4 feet in diameter at the base, then went skinnier as it went up, all lumpy. Then at the very top, a single branch with green leaves. It was probably 25 to 30 feet high. And trust me, this was a long pee. So I get done. I do a couple of spins to try to figure out where I am. I'm not seeing anything familiar. And I keep looking at this ugly ass tree. It's got my attention. I got to get a closer look. Which tree keeps coming to me? What? WITCH tree keeps coming to me, comma, I'm thinking it got burnt, but nothing else is burnt in that area. I started heading down the little gully when I got to the bottom and started up towards it. And that's when I saw what it really was. I could see the red hair blowing in the breeze at the base. Below it, a foot. Then the forms of 3 of them hurtle up with their arms stretched up to the top of a tree they were wrapped around. Steve, that's when the fear hit me. Thank God I already peed because I would have pissed my pants. No freaking doubt. I backpedaled, tripped, got up, then realizing I had no idea where I was, I started running down the gully. I finally got my voice and started yelling. Then I heard my friends very faintly yelling back. Holy shit, I was a long ways off. I scrambled up the gully and beelined through the woods towards them, thinking the whole time, these things are chasing me. And this is where it gets weird. When I broke into the circle, my friends started yelling at me. They were pissed that I was gone so long and they were just getting ready to start searching for me. To me, I was away 10 minutes at most, and all of them swear I was gone an hour. We argued about it. What comes next is weirder in my mind. Sorry. We argued about it. What comes next is weirder. My mind went blank about the whole thing. I remember telling them that there's something out there. I didn't set my tent up. I crawled under the truck and stayed there. I'm a fighter. I could take on any of them guys and win, and they knew it. Seeing me so scared them. They hunker in the camper box. The next morning, we were gone. The whole thing was erased from my mind until I watched your show. Like I said, bam, there it was after all these years. Oh, and I got more. They do follow. Thanks, Steve. Sincerely, Patrick Pritchard. Patrick, appreciate your honesty, man. Thank you so much for that email. And you're right, they do follow. How's your puzzle pieces doing, all? Right? How's your puzzle pieces doing? You figuring the shit out yet? Got enough clues? That is creepy. Especially like where I normally hunt black-tailed deer. Where I normally hunt black-tailed deer, one of my favorite spots, has got a lot of activity. They are there. How often? I don't know. I don't care to find out. When I go, I have a funny. I hunt and I go around those mountains like they're there all the time, which I'm quite certain they are, because there's just one place where a lot of the deer that I'm after, huge bucks, if they go a little higher up and go up into that timber, I don't go. It doesn't matter how huge the deer is. I mean, we're talking some blacktail bucks that your average blacktail hunter would die for. And as soon as they cross that one imaginary line that I have, I'm like, all right, well, I hope you come back down because I'm not going in there. Have I gone in there in the past? Yeah, one time about maybe 7 years ago. No, more than that, shit. Maybe 10 years ago. But anyway, I was after this monstrous buck. And it's one of my first trail cameras I ever had. And I got up in the morning, I went and hit this trail, and I saw those massive tracks. And I finally had a trail camera, and it was fresh snow, and I had a trail camera on the tree. And finally got to see this massive track that I've been hunting. Usually I just, over the years before trail cameras, I hunted that track. It was always the footprint or the shed antlers that I'd find, and then it was on. Because I specifically will target one specific deer, and I'll stay on him. Anyway, if he didn't take me forever, weaving all the way up and up and up and up and up, and I knew I was right behind him, and next thing you know, we went straight into that timber that goes forever, and it goes to where stuff's gone down a lot, and it just creeps me out in that timber. It's never been logged. Big fir trees, big moss, huckleberry bushes. other underbrush. And that's one time I went in there, and then I finally got so far back, and then I'm like, oh shit, what am I doing here? And I left. And this is not too far. I found footprints near there. I've had a loud yell, but not what everybody describes here, just a full-on loud yell from in there. Not too far from there, a couple of guys on mountain bikes ran into a large huge gray-colored upright being they thought was a hoodie at first. What else? All those strange lights on my trail camera is basically about 300 yards away from my natural barrier that I have of going in the timber. That trail camera video of those bright lights, weird lights, is 300 yards away from my imaginary line where I don't cross. Anyways, I'm babbling. What I'm saying is, sometimes when I'm in there, and sometimes I'm on a mountain face where I can see, like, we're talking big fir tree, right? Big hemlock, big fir tree, big cedars. And knowing what I speculate and what you speculate or know about big timber combo with these beings, sometimes I wonder, and I've wondered while I'm hunting, and then I try to get the thought out of my head. But I wonder just how long, if you were to sit there in one of those big, like sometimes I can see up to, I don't know, 100 yards. Sometimes in some holes, if there's a rock slide facing that timber, I can see maybe even a couple 100 yards sometimes. And sometimes I wonder if I just sat there with my high power, what do I got? Oh man, what do I got? What is it, 7x52 or something, Swarovskis? And sometimes I wonder if I just sat there in the timber and shifted my focus to every single tree and just gazed at it. Sat there in a comfortable spot and gazed and picked out every single tree and gazed and focused on it, how long it would take to come up with what this man just shared with us. Right? And then I quickly change my thoughts, and I get that thought out of my head, and I'm not into it. And I don't want to bring it on. But I know there's something there. What do you guys think? I know there's something there. And if you're one of those people who's just dying for an experience, go get some high-power binoculars, hike into that big timber in the Pacific Northwest, and sit down and start spying at every single tree thoroughly and take your time, as in hours. Or not. Or not. All right, what do we got? This is titled, Little Person Found in a Cave in the Pedro Mountains in Wyoming. I wanted to bring to your attention a story that my grandfather told me about a little person found in a cave in the Pedro Mountains in Wyoming. My grandfather actually saw it with his own eyes. I'm attaching a link that explains the whole story and pictures with x-rays. Thank you for exposing truths. Of course, you can use my name, Terry Street. Strange find in Wyoming. Appreciate you, Terry. Here we go. A strange find in Wyoming. In the summer of 1934, or in some reports, 1932, two gold prospectors speculating, probably meant prospecting, in the rugged terrain of the Pedro Mountains in Wyoming, blasted open a rock wall in search of veins of ore. Instead, they discovered a hidden cave. Wow. On a ledge inside this small chamber sat a remarkably preserved tiny human mummy, later dubbed the Pedro Mountain Mummy. The mummy was seated cross-legged, estimated at around 6.5 inches tall, while seated, and perhaps up to 14 to 17 inches standing. Its skin was brown and wrinkled. Its skull seemed flattened, its eyes bulging, fingernails and a full set of teeth were visible. The finders, and the press that followed, connected it to the nearby Native American legends of the Nimerigar, Nimerigar, quote, little people, end quote, said to live in the mountains. Wow. The scientific investigation and changing interpretations. Initial sensational reports claimed the mummy belonged to a tiny adult, perhaps a member of a pygmy race of ancient Americans. X-rays reportedly showed adult-like vertebrae, food in the stomach, broken bones, and a smashed skull, However, further anthropological study has overwhelmingly concluded the remains are that of an infant suffering from anencephaly. Anencephaly. Anencephaly, bracket, a congenital defect in which parts of the brain and skull failed to develop, and bracket. Yep, of course it was. In other words, the, quote, miniature adult, end quote, appearance was likely a result of pathological abnormalities rather than evidence of a previously unknown race. For example, university anthropologist George Gill reviewed x-rays and agreed with this infant diagnosis. Of course he did, because you know what? Scientists are on the hit list, always. The disappearance and ongoing mystery. After winding its way through sideshows and private collectors, the mummy was owned by a Casper, Wyoming businessman named Ivan T. Goodman by the 1940s, displayed in a glass jar on a wooden base. Wikipedia. By around 1950, Goodman either sold it or lost it, and the mummy's whereabouts are unknown. It vanished into legend, a symbol of folklore, science, and caution. The story of the Pedro Mountain mummy continues to fascinate because it touches on so many themes: legend and folklore. The Nimirigar of Shoshone tradition were said to be little people living in the mountains, a memory perhaps echoed or exploited by the find. Scientific caution. A dramatic find that seemed extraordinary at first, but analysis showed a more prosaic, though still tragic, medical explanation. An infant with congenital defects. Ethics and reparation. The mummy was likely Native American remains, removed from its context without proper cultural consent. The case raised questions about how remains should be handled, studied, and returned. Mystery and the unknown. The fact that the specimen is lost fuels speculation, legend, and alternative theories. Human vulnerability. A tiny infant alone in a cave whose condition and final resting place speak to the fragility of life, even in dramatic settings. Why this story matters. Whether you interpret the Pedro Mountain mummy as an infant with anencephaly or as something more mythic, the tale works as a reminder that what appears extraordinary often requires rigorous scientific scrutiny. Cultural narratives, legends of little people, can shape how discoveries are framed, for better or worse. Human remains are never just curiosities. They carry history, ancestry, and ethical responsibility. Sometimes the greatest mysteries are those that remind us how little we understand of the past and how much we must respect those who came before. End of story. And here is the photo. The initial photo, only photo. Sometimes it's easier for me just to do it this way, guys, you know. Let me zoom in on this. I've seen this. I've seen this, but isn't there isn't there something similar but an alien? Remember? There's an x-ray. Holy shit. Look at this. It's pretty good fakery, isn't it? Not. Wow. 14-inch tall. That skeleton. 14 to 17 standing, stretched out. Wow. Crazy. Yeah, they've got a similar thing, I think a 6-inch long or 8-inch long alien thing of similar description, not exactly, and they've got x-rays of that thing too. X-rays. Allegedly, wasn't there. I don't know the people, I don't know. There we go. Thanks for the heads up. I'm sure somebody's going to chime in the comment section below that's familiar with that story, I'll bet. Appreciate you, man. All right, what do we got here? Fresh out of the oven. Email to all of you through me. Returned item question mark? Remembered details from encounter. Steve, I emailed you previously and you read my stories. Thank you. I am just writing you again because I remembered a detail about my possible returned item from my Northwest Montana encounter. All right. I wrote to you earlier about my encounter in the Mission Mountains of Northwest Montana. I'll spare you and the audience the whole story again, but I'll give a recap and then add in the detail about my returned item. All right. So here it goes. Northwest Montana, Mission Mountain Range, July 2013, backpacking expedition. About 15 to 20 miles up logging roads and backwood hiking trails to a high alpine lake. I saw multiple broken treetops and had a large evergreen fall over on my hike up. At the top where the lake is, I saw two individual, 16 to 18-inch human footprints. That night I heard the tornado siren calling many describe. The next day I was trying to make my way to another adjacent alpine lake and lost the trail. I remember this one. And ended up meeting some fellow hikers. And I decided to follow them back to the previous lake. And somehow on the hike back up to the first lake, I lost the Garmin GPS that I was using to help me navigate. We were not on a trail. We were bushwhacking through old-growth forest on a big hillside. I asked the group if they would wait up while I went back to try to find where I dropped the GPS. They agreed, and I dropped my pack and backtracked to a fallen log we had walked across about 5 to 10 minutes before. I was running back because I didn't want them to ditch me. Ha. So I made it back pretty quick. The log was a very large 2-foot larger diameter log that was laying perpendicular to the hill slope, all covered in moss. I remember distinctly earlier all of us walking across it. Anyways, right there, smack dab in the middle of that log, was my Garmin, sitting screen up like somebody had placed it right there for me. I remembered seeing it thinking, no effing way. Been there. I haven't told anybody about this part of my story before. I didn't think it was really relevant until you talked about some of your returned items. But I always did think it was uncanny how it was just sitting there perfectly balanced on top of that fallen log. What are the chances of me dropping it and it landing on top of the log just like that? During that bushwhacking, I'd also lost my bear spray. That, however, was not returned. They probably kept it for seasoning. There was also an odd incident several weeks after that backpacking trip. I was sitting in my apartment at the time, which is in downtown Kalispell, Montana, and all of a sudden I hear this boom, boom, boom on the outside of the building where there was a little alley behind our building. It was a really slow tempo, maybe one boom every several seconds. Oh. It happened maybe a half a dozen times or so, and then it stopped. It sounded more like a soft boom rather than a gunshot, and I hate to say it, but like a massive open-ended hand slapping the side of the brick wall. The sounds were coming from above my head height and the outside corner of my apartment on the outside of the building. This is also a 2-story building, and I was on the top floor. I hadn't really seriously thought this may have been associated with my backpacking trip experiences, but then I started to listen to everybody else's stories and thought, maybe. Just odd since that apartment was in the middle of our downtown. At the time, Kalispell wasn't a very big town, but just didn't think these types of things went down in the city. Later the next day, I asked a girl who lived on the other side of the building if she had heard anything odd the night before, and she said no. I was almost going to frickin' make that call, right? Which is totally weird. I guess she could have been sleeping, but I would have thought that loud noise would have woken anybody up. Anyway, that is all. I hadn't wanted you to share my whole name before, but I think it's time that we throw off the shackles and shame society. Sorry. I think it's time that we throw off the shackles of shame society makes us wear. I agree, Matt. Good for you, man. Matt Stewart, Kalispell, Montana. Appreciate you big time. Now let's see who chimes in, Matt, right? About the close proximity to the center of a town and having that slap in the building, the boom, and nobody else hearing it, Or maybe somebody's had the same thing happen. So maybe somebody heard it and their neighbor didn't hear shit. Or somebody laying right next to him didn't hear it. Whatever, right? It's a pattern. It's a pattern. All right, this next one sent in is a comment, screenshot comments from the channel, all right? I get a lot of these. So there's no email with it, no title with it, no name, nothing. It just starts off with, I remember camping in the woods out in Black, Missouri with some friends on one of their family's decent plot of land. Some experienced, some new to camping. We told my buddy, who was new, that the only real safety rules were, once we set up camp, no one leaves, and never go into the woods in the dark or alone. We all went to bed, but he couldn't sleep. And out of nowhere, he started hearing his girlfriend call his name. Quiet at first, then screaming the last time. The problem? She wasn't even with us. She was a good 3 hours away, and this was a guy's trip. See, that would freak me out. Knowing what we know now, that would freak me out. That would probably make me jump in a vehicle and start driving home as fast as I could. Maybe. He rolled over and said, F that, loud enough to wake me and another friend. Annoyed, we asked what was going on, and he told us what happened. And he said he thought we were messing with him, playing some kind of a joke. He was convinced one of us was out in the woods pretending to be his girlfriend, but we were all in our tents and accounted for. Me and my other friend, knowing the folklore of the area, immediately started packing up and waking everyone else. We told him to stay out of the woods, that we had to leave, but he ignored us and started walking toward the tree line. That's when he suddenly stopped. He said he saw a completely black, slender figure about 6 feet tall, but hunched over, move behind the trees about 15 feet away, and then it screamed. Holy shit. We all heard at that time, and was something I've still never heard besides in horror movies. A friend came running back, and I was ready to start blasting. No doubt. On the ride home, my experienced friends started to tell others that it was probably just a crackhead in the woods to calm them. And I went along. But me and him both knew there's no way. Not after it called his name. And at that moment, our friend that heard his girlfriend call out was absolutely convinced it was her or one of her friends out there. And to this day, it's the craziest thing I've ever encountered, and know whatever it was pure evil. Even now, I get odd vibes in the woods from time to time that I never had before. End of comment. Holy shit! No doubt I'd like to have known how his reunion with his girlfriend went when he got home, and what that conversation would have been like. Right? That is dirty pool. And how do they do that? Right? How do they do that? They get in our head. They're getting in our head and hearing somebody from somebody trusted. That's some creepy shit. What else do we got? All right, here we go. One out of the vault, not marked as read. Hopefully somebody patiently waiting to be heard. No title in this email. Hi, Steve. My wife and I listen to your YouTube just about twice a week. And since you read our messages, since you read your messages, I thought I would write you about my experiences with the unusual when I'm hunting. All right. Being a whitetail hunter in Georgia for the past 30 years. I've had the pleasure of being outdoors and just enjoying still hunting in my deer stand. One Friday evening in November, about 20 years ago, I was hunting just after work. And about I noticed a nice buck approaching from my left on the edge of the woods. He stopped about 125 yards from the stand. I lifted up my 7mm Magnum, put it square in his chest, and squeezed off a round. The deer leapt, went straight into the woods. I heard him crash on the ground and flailing about, and then silence. I waited another 15 minutes before I got down. Hearing nothing, I thought I ought to go find him before the sun went down, so I eased out of my stand and went to go check. found the blood trail exactly where I'd shot him. The trail was pretty clear for about 15 yards. And as soon as I reached the edge of the woods where he had turned in, I heard a sound of something picking up a heavy object and running off away from me, as a thief runs away with their prize. Ooh. I cautiously approached the woods, and about 30 yards inside the tree line, I found the place where the buck had lain down and bled out. It was about a quart of deep red heart blood. I thought he couldn't have just gotten up. Well, I began to search for more blood, and I found a few drops heading north. The trail would go without a drop of blood about once every 10 or 12 feet. That's cruising pretty good. I followed the trail about 75 yards, and it was getting dark. I stopped for a moment, and the hair went up on the back of my head. I was being watched. And I heard the strangest thing I've ever heard. A howl like an ape, along with a few whoops. I figured I'd come back in the morning just to see if I could recover my kill. I came back. Okay, so I'm guessing you took off. I came back with my buddy, and we looked around the woods and couldn't find anything other than what I had found the evening before. And this type of thing happened again with my buddy Tim a few years later. My buddy Scott had hunted the area where I'd heard the whooping, and he heard the same thing one morning he had hunted. He told me he was not going to hunt that spot again. Just this last season, my wife and I were up in our stand hunting when we heard the howl and whoops. Needless to say, I am an anthropologist and retired educator. Before these experiences, I did not believe in Sasquatch. I'm apt to believe that they exist and are alive and well in South Georgia. Sincerely, Mark McCall. Appreciate you, Mark. Be interesting to hear your take on what you think's going on out there at this stage of the game, especially going through the public school system and becoming an anthropologist, right? And I'm not saying that being insulting. I'm just saying, with that education compared to other routes to education, different flavors of education, I wonder what your call is on this now after listening to all the good, honest people here. I wonder. And there you go. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Man, I got a lot of emails. What's this? Not marked as read. Hopefully somebody has been sitting waiting to be heard. Sasquatch is the title of this email. Hello, sir. I like what you've been doing in regards to Sasquatch and giving people a comfort zone in which to relate their encounters/experiences with these beings. I'm attempting something similar with a podcast I'm developing. I watch your videos and subscribe to your channel because I like your matter-of-fact approach. I do get a sense that you don't hold researchers in high regard, and in so many instances, I can understand why. I myself have been researching since I was 14 years old, 1978, and found some tracks near a creek in New York, near where I lived. Once I realized them for what they were, at the time I had no clue what I was looking at. I had to know, if you get my drift. In 43 years, I've had only 3 encounters, 2 of which were a little frightening. I'm not one of those who want to prove it to the world. I got over that as time went on, and for myself, I need no further proof. But enough for my meager and unimportant credentials. I'm really writing this to urge people to listen a little harder to what you say, so I hope you read this to people. I appreciate what you said in one of your videos about the stupidity of killing a Sasquatch. I know you know which video I'm referring. Too many, quote, researchers, end quote, out there seem to want to be the one. And I cannot stress how incredibly stupid, and in my opinion, morally wrong that is. What I do is for my own knowledge and to help others who have encountered these beings understand that they are not crazy. I've learned that it is possible to encounter Sasquatch with no ill effects, and either party involved. But if indications point to them wanting you gone, then you should leave. And they'll let you. Show the proper respect as you would for anything in nature. Anyway, just wanted to put this out there. Thanks again for doing what you do. Maybe someday I'll relate those encounters I've had Maybe someday I'll relate those encounters I have had if you're a mind to hear them. Respectfully, Joe. Got you, Joe. Appreciate you, man. That was quite a while ago. I wonder where you are on your ride now. Especially if you're listening to this channel with all the people being heard word for word and not filtered at all, right? That's very, very important for any kind of knowledge for anyone in any category today. Next. All right, this one's a long one. I think I can squeeze this in. Hey, Steve, I hope this email finds you well. I'm 52 years old and I live in an area north of the city of Houston. I've been watching your channel for a year or so, mostly out of curiosity on the topic, as my wife and I love the outdoors and we go camping and hiking on a regular basis. I can honestly say that I've never had any sort of experience while camping or hiking. And I'm super glad because I would hate for something like that to ruin it for us. Oh, I get it. Me too. We've gone camping and hiking in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and even in your neck of the woods, British Columbia. Having said that, we're not experts, just enthusiasts. Good for you, seeing all that real world. That's awesome. The experience I had happened in the least expected place. I was taking a fitness class that a buddy was teaching out of this home. I think he meant his home, weekdays at 5 a.m. In the fall, it was still pitch black at 5 a.m. This place was located in a suburb north of the city of Houston, Texas, not too far from the Sam Houston National Forest and along the Jacinto River. I think I nailed that one. Jacinto. Jacinto? This specific morning, there were only 6 or 7 people in the class, and I was the only male. We started off with running a half-a-mile loop. I'm not a fast runner, and all the ladies in class were super competitive, so they took off running like gazelles. I was trailing behind them, a good 10 yards behind, when I noticed they had slowed down significantly and were asking each other if they could see something in the woods in front of us. We were approaching the first left turn on the road, and in front was a drainage ditch. Past the ditch is a patch of woods. The river runs behind those woods, and I finally saw what they were talking about. There was a set of amber-colored glowing eyes. Now, this street has no street lights. Most light comes from the front porches of the homes, and I'm used to seeing the eyes of cats or raccoons or possums reflecting in the car's headlights, so I just assumed those amber-colored eyes were something similar, because they were not at ground level, but much higher. I just assumed the eyes were from an owl or a cat perched onto a tree branch. I do not feel any fear or impending doom as other folks have described. The ladies at that point had slowed down enough for me to catch up and continued asking each other if they saw that and if they knew what it was. Instead of telling them what I really thought it could be, an owl or a cat on a tree branch, I told them it was the chupacabra, just to add humor to the situation since I didn't think we were in any danger. I figured any little critter would shy away from by now. Very loud groups of people. And by the way, I don't know what I think about the chupacabras, to be honest with you. I was just saying the most ridiculous thing I could think of at the moment. Anyway, we rounded the first corner, and they were all crowding around me, continuously looking over their shoulders. That'll be the sixth sense kicking in. We took the next left turn a good 25-30 yards from where we had seen the glowing eyes. I told them that the chupacabras normally targets the slowest and fattest goat in the herd. Again, I was trying to be funny. At that point, I noticed their pace pick up and they began leaving me behind again, which was fine with me. And it was then that we all heard at the same time something really big and heavy flanking us on the right side of the road in the woods. That sucks. There were empty lots and homes on the left side of the road and only woods on the right, where the sound was coming from. Whatever it was, it moved much faster in the woods and we all were running on the asphalt road. It passed us. And then about 20 yards from us, something very tall slowly emerged from the woods from the right side and stood in front of us, right in the middle of the road. Whoa. At that point, you can imagine the screams as they turned around and sprinted back to where I was. When I heard the sounds in the woods, I thought we might have startled a deer, which is about the biggest critter as we are used to seeing around here. And although we do see some feral hogs sometimes, having said that, whatever was standing in front of us was definitely not either one of those two things. It was very tall, but not too wide. It just looked like an extremely tall person wearing dark and baggy clothes standing in the middle of the road. There are even fewer homes on this street, so the lighting is even worse. And all we could see was this tall, dark silhouette. The crazy thing was that one moment it was there, then it wasn't. Now, I did lose sight as I now had 6 screaming women in front of me. I'm not trying to tell you I'm the bravest guy in the world, but I know I'm not. But for some reason, I never felt fearful or threatened. Maybe I'm just stupid and lack that sixth sense that people talk about. At that point, we had 2 choices. To turn around and run back to the direction where we'd seen the glowing eyes, or keep running forward to where we had seen the thing stand in the middle of the road. Nothing was said. We soldiered on, though. Of course, the moment we passed the general area where we had seen the dark silhouette, everyone took off in a dead sprint, except for me. My bad knees and other injuries would not allow it. We all made it back in one piece. The trainer asked what the hell all the screaming was about, as he could hear it all the way to his house. All that was said was that we saw something in the woods and it startled us. That was about 11 or 12 years ago, and we never discussed it further with those in class that morning. Although listening to stories people share with you, it's made me think about it. No doubt. A couple weeks ago, I asked my wife, who was one of the ladies present that day, if she remembered and if she knew what she had seen. She remembers for sure, but had no clue what we had seen. She thought it may have been a horse. I'm not going to debate anyone about what they saw, especially since I don't know myself what I saw, but I know that the silhouette was not of a horse. There are no loose horses running around residential neighborhoods. Steve, I honestly don't know if after months of listening to the stories people share with you, I'm trying to make that fit into my own experience, like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, but I also don't want to dismiss what we all saw. Amber-colored, glowing eyes, quite high off the ground, the sound of something much larger than me running past me through the woods and emerging quite a distance in front of us. The shadow that I saw was not of a 4-legged critter. I just know there are many things out there we don't know anything about. Thanks for providing an outlet for people to get their experiences off their chest. I truly feel bad for those who have had traumatic experiences. Keep up the good work. Please don't use my name. Okay, I won't. I'll just say you're in Texas. Gotcha, man. Appreciate you big time. And who can guess what I'm about to say? You know what it was. You know what it was. Man, I think for the next few times I come on here, I'm going to have to really start reading a lot of these emails that I've got that aren't marked as read. There's a lot of people waiting a long time to be heard. I'm just going to apologize for that. There's not much I can do about it, but just keep going. But I'll get you heard. Excuse me. I will get you heard. Word for word. You know what? I'll do one more. Holy. Well, that's not too long. I'm going for it. On that note, I'm going for it. One more, you guys. This is titled New Jersey Sasquatch. Steve, I'm 53 years old. An avid hunter, trapper, and fisherman. I was even on the Outdoor Channel a long time ago. Reddit. I remember this. Reddit. Mark, this is red. Got it. All right. Good stuff. I stopped myself from making somebody absolutely blow a gasket for reading one twice. Just kidding. Just kidding. What's this one then? How long's this? Oh, this is manageable for the time I got left. No title on this, not marked as read. I want to remain anonymous. I got your back. This story is like the story you had on February 25th about the 3-letter agency. I heard a story from one of my cousin's wives many years ago, told by my uncle. So I haven't heard the story firsthand myself, but since my aunt and uncle are getting along in years as myself, I plan on having him tell me the story himself the next time I visit while he's still with us. And this is what my cousin's wife told me. Your uncle told us a story a few days ago about Bigfoot. My uncle was one of the mechanics for a big corporation, and while on a lunch break, the mechanics were talking about things, and one of them brought up the subject of Bigfoot. Most everybody had a response like, well, I don't know. I guess I'd have to see it to believe it. It's a lot of crap. But one of the guys was full-blooded Choctaw Indian, and he said, they are real. They are real. He told everyone what had happened to his 3 cousins that were deer hunting. I believe he said this happened in Kansas. And they came upon 3 Bigfoot in a group. 2 of them were brown in color and turned and ran off into the timber. The third one was black and didn't turn and run away. It roared at them so loud they felt it to their core. The 3 men each had 12-gauge shotguns with buckshot. The Bigfoot started running towards them, still screaming and roaring. There was an old tree stump in his path, and they said must have weighed hundreds of pounds, and it picked it up on its run and hurled it at them. On its run. At this point, they knew they were all about to get ripped from limb to limb, so they all took aim and started shooting at center mass. They unloaded every round they had and finally brought it down. Not knowing what to do, they knew nobody would believe them. They took photos of it and cut some of its hair and put it in a Ziploc sandwich bag. What? And here's the part that really shocked me. Not long after, the feds showed up with a truck to load it up. The men asked if it was going to be on the news tonight. The leader in charge said, absolutely not. This never happened. We were never here, and you 3 were never here. You mean you're going to cover this up? You can't mean this. This is big news. The whole world will want to hear about this. We finally have proved these things are real. No, we don't, the man said again. But why? Listen to me, he said. The government has known about these creatures for decades, and it must be kept quiet because the brown ones are herbivores, but the black ones are carnivores. All right, you just lost me there. That possibly just lost me there. That means they eat meat. Any meat they can find when they get hungry. Understand what I'm saying to you? You are meat. If the public knew about them, every hiker, camper, mountain biker, or anyone in the wilderness would be armed to the teeth and shooting at everything that moves or makes a sound and killing each other in the process. No, they wouldn't. The next day at work, during their lunch break, the Indians showed the photos they took of the Bigfoot and the Ziploc bag of hair. My uncle said the smell was indescribable. Yeah, the feds weren't told about the hair and the photos they took. They didn't go public with this info and kept it to themselves, but only tell the story when people start claiming that Bigfoot isn't real. Brett. And to be, hold on a minute. Well, I don't know. Take from what you will or leave it, you guys. Don't know. I wasn't there. Man, we haven't had any photos show up of the dead Sasquatch blasted to death with shotguns. I don't know. Don't know. I'm not here to tell you guys anything about how I feel about an experience shared here. I could innocently match up patterns with a story, right? Just say, well, I don't know. I mean, we have had people unloading shotguns with buckshot square into the chest and doorways and through windows of these beings numerous times in the past, and they just shrug it off and take off screaming. Especially a shotgun. It's pretty tough, right? I mean, I have buckshot. I don't know. Slugs. I can tell you firsthand. A lot of the times that I was guiding up north on horseback for months at a time, my go-to firearm that I packed with me was a sawed-off 12-gauge. It was an 870 Wingmaster, and I had slug, buckshot loaded in that sucker with the plug taken out. Illegal. I don't give a shit. Self-defense in the middle of nowhere. No crime was made with it. But anyway, one time I had a guy is the drug addict from Georgia. I told that story a long time ago. The crackhead, meth head from Georgia. And he had a 7mm mag. And I got him on a huge moose, big, fat, huge moose in a bachelor group of bulls in a meadow above, shooting down like that. And I'm laying down on a rest, and he shot that thing all over the place. And then it slowly walked off into the spruce tree. We're at a timberline, too, so it's kind of stunted spruce, you know, thick. I'm like, oh, shit. So I went in there, and then I put slugs. I put 3 slugs ready to go instead of the buckshot. Took that out. And sure enough, that sucker stood up broadside right in front of me. Wounded monster frickin' bull moose. And he was about, I don't know, 3, 6, 9, 12 feet from me, 10 feet. And I just up with the gun, boom. And that slug, I shot him in the shoulders to dump him. And that slug went clean through him. That 12 gauge slug went clean through the moose's shoulders and out the other side at about 12 feet. But anyway, I'm babbling. I guess I'm just talking about my experiences with 12 gauge shotguns and what they could possibly do to a large animal, being, whatever you call it, whatever you want to refer to. And they will. And if I had a choice, if I got a charging grizzly bear coming at me, I want slugs. It'll stop them. It's the #1 stopper. Anyway, I'm really rambling away here, aren't I? So I don't know. Maybe they did cut it down with shotguns. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But the patterns show us that the shotguns aren't really the go-to to stop one of these beings. Allegedly. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, I'm out of here. I'll wait for the big boss to come home. She's doing the other food shopping for the rest of the food. I forget why she busted something. She goes to our grocery store here for, I don't know. I don't know. Having a clue. She busts it up. She gets some products from here, some products from Costco. Then she's got to organize it all into different boxes for the families. And then we got to line up when they're going to be home. We go off and deliver it. So I will be included because it's going to be a lot going down this week to get that done. But anyways, that's where I'm going. I'm really babbling away, aren't I? But anyway, I'm going to talk to my documentary guy. What do you guys think about that one? I mean, if there's ever an asshole to do it in the world, to expose all of the baddies, every one of them, what they've done to people, what they've done to keep you running in a circle, and share truth at the same time when it comes to the topic of these beings that we've been running into since time began. I think that would be worthy, wouldn't it? Don't you? Let me know in the comment section below. Share my story at howtohunt.com. What else? All the links to anything you may want to stop in somebody's stalking is in the video description below, or not. And yeah, my mind's racing. I better get out of here before I really babble and make myself look even dumber than I already am. I'll be back tomorrow, you guys. Later.